Tony, I love this. Do something for humanity. What do you mean by that?
Yes, that's an interesting chapter title, isn't it, Gary, for a book on careers, isn't it? And people often ask me, well, how's that got to do with my job? And I say to them, I share the story in the book of the three bricklayers. So a journalist arrives on a building site one day, and there's three bricklayers laying bricks, and it's a story shared from history, and it's about finding out the meaning that people assign to their jobs. The journalist asks the first bricklayer, "Tell me what you do," and the first bricklayer answers, "I just lay bricks all day." Fair enough. Then the journalist goes, "Tell me what you do." He goes, "Well, I am building a wall," and the journalist begins to get a sense that for the first bricklayer, he is simply just doing a set of tasks, repetitive tasks of laying bricks just to earn an income. That's the basic level employee. The second person had a slightly bigger picture because he could see what he was building, which was the
Hmm.
wall. So then the journalist goes up to the third bricklayer and says, "Tell me what you do." And he said, "I am building a cathedral in the honor of God." So the third person could see that he wasn't just doing a job, he was serving a greater purpose. He was contributing to humanity. And
Hmm.
he was coming away from his workday each day far more satisfied because there was a deeper purpose to the work he was performing. And when you find a deeper purpose and meaning from your work, it becomes a more empowered and powerful career experience. And I draw on the quote from Horace Mann, who said, "Be ashamed to die until you've won some victory for humanity." And I'm convinced that what's missing in a lot of people's careers is that greater contribution that they're looking for. And when you look at a lot of employment surveys, one of the reasons people become disengaged or dissatisfied with their career, Gary, is it lacks meaning. Hence the reason for the chapter.
So, so what's the correlation if you've got a sort of a corporate job that doesn't seem to relate to enhancing humanity? Where or how do you create a correlation?
Very good question. All right. Well, given I was in corporate, let me share my story, if I may, and hopefully not indulge myself overly. I um, I went through a stage in my career where I was dissatisfied. I just felt, even though I was highly paid, seen as successful, had a professional job, I felt, Gary, that there was something missing, and it was niggling away at me, and I wasn't sure exactly what that was. So I took a bit of a sabbatical from my employment days and uh, went on a thing called a vision quest, which is a North American sort of exercise where you go out in nature with a group of people and you spend time in solitude and in group exercises and you try to connect with who you are and what your life's about, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah. On day three of that 7 day vision quest, um, we were taken out into the bush and we were asked to do a high ropes exercise. And I share this story in the book. And I have a extreme fear of heights. In fact, I would call it terror. And I really looked at this high ropes challenge exercise in the sky and I thought, oh, there's no way I'm going to do that. But anyway, with the encouragement of the group, it was my turn to take on this challenge. I climbed up these little steps that were nailed to the pole, got to the top of the obstacle, and then I had to step off the timber platform and onto the ropes, which took me a while to acquire the courage to do that. My hands are perspiring, my feet are shaking, but anyway, I slowly and slowly start to work my way across these ropes. And I got to about the halfway point, and that's where the ropes were really wobbly. And I said to the people below me, "Look, I think I'm going to go back because I've come far enough." And the ropes are really shaking, and I just don't feel stable and balanced. And someone said to me from below, "Tony, it's not the ropes that are shaking, it's you." Okay. And you may as well keep going because you're just as far from the end as you are from the beginning. So, anyway, I regathered my breath and my composure and kept walking and made it to the other side. Took a deep breath and then progressively moved down off the obstacle, the steps, and landed on firm ground and was deeply relieved more than in adulation about what I achieved, to be honest, that I was still alive. But in that moment of somewhat satisfaction, I had two women in their 40s come up to me and said, Tony, we weren't going to do that because we were scared of heights, but we saw what you went through, and if you could do it, we're going to attempt it as well. So the two ladies went off, climbed up there, and got across in half the time I did. They did it with far greater ease than little old Tony. And what was interesting, Gary, and me watching the two ladies go across was I got more satisfaction in having inspired them to take the journey to overcome their fear than I got from actually overcoming my own. And if you studied a lot of philosophy teachers, they will say one of the greatest things and an area you get the most enjoyment is actually what you do for others, not what you get from achieving for yourself. So if you're in corporate, okay, you can come back. I came back to the corporate world from that moment. And instead of focusing on my career, Gary, what I started to do was mentoring the next generation, passing on my knowledge and experience from things I had seen in terms of how to manage careers. I would take people into conference rooms and help them prepare their presentations they were going to give to others, that sort of stuff. So it shifted that experience with the high ropes, shifted my focus from my career, making about me and my recognition and my status to contributing to others. So hopefully that answers your question of how you can do that in the corporate workplace. Don't make it about you, but uplifting others through your leadership.
Riveting story. So, as a conclusion to this chapter, again, what would you ask your reader, viewer to do right now?
I would ask them to find ways in their employment to see how what you're doing today is actually contributing to other people. And if it isn't, how it's going to become a stepping stone for you to do that one day down the track.
Excellent, Tony.